Hello everybody, what is going on? My name is Steggy and welcome to a new video series of mine where I'll be covering the latest news for gaming, tech, and content creation. So, because this is a new series, the format's not 100% finalized yet, so as you watch this first episode, be sure to leave a comment down below to tell me what you liked, what you don't like, and any kind of suggestions that can be applied towards future updates. But for now, let's get into the first story. So the first and possibly biggest story to come out of this past week is Razer's IPO filing. This past week, Razer finally announced that they are filing their IPO and they are seeking to raise $600 million in the Hong Kong stock market. So while I'm not a business guy and I can't really tell you what this necessarily means for this company or what their standing is based on this IPO, what's really interesting to me is their prospectus that they filed with their IPO that gives you a ton of information on just the breadth of the gaming industry. And it's got a lot of data that normally you'd have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to read up on, but you get to see it if you decide to take some time to read this. So one of the interesting things to me is that the gaming headset industry is valued at over $1 billion, which is kind of crazy to think about considering how few brands there are in the space that are fighting it out in that category. So that's really interesting. So if you want to read up on that IPO filing and just more information on that news story, be sure to check the description panel down below to find out more. Another story out of this week is Asus ROG has announced the Magnus microphone, which is a streaming-centric microphone. Now, there are already a couple of reviews on YouTube for this mic, but the first thing you might notice are definitely its looks. Without being too cruel to it, it's not my cup of tea. It seems that Asus have found themselves falling into that same pit that a lot of other companies have fallen down, where, you know, they're trying to sort of captivate the gamer identity, and it just comes off as a little bit pandering. You know, the one thing it's not missing are like racing flames. The closest comparison that I can really give this microphone to is the AverMedia Aegis microphone, which did not go over too well when that was released. I don't know if part of it was its looks. That was a big detraction for me right away, but its sound was also kind of poor. But out of the reviews that I've seen for the Magnus microphone, it actually doesn't sound too bad until you turn on the DSP. So one of the things that this microphone has added is digital sound processing, which is basically geared to cancel out some of the keyboard clacking that a streamer might deal with, which is definitely an ambitious effort, and they're not the first company to do this. AverMedia also tried to do this, but when AverMedia did it, it sounded like shit. And when you turn on this DSP with the Asus Magnus mic, it also sounds considerably worse than when you're just using it naturally. So it's got a lot of features. The looks I cannot stand personally, and the DSP, well, you should really check out the videos yourself to be the judge on what you think the quality is and if you would use that in your stream or YouTube videos. So going into more general tech news, Jay-Z has been popping up on a lot of sites lately for his new album 444, but not for the reasons you might think. Now, Jay-Z is the primary owner, or whatever you'd call it, for the streaming platform or the music platform Tidal, which is a competitor to like Apple iTunes or Apple Music, whatever you call it, and Spotify, etc. So Jay-Z basically owns Tidal, or he's one of the main partners in that, and basically this album is exclusive to Tidal. So there is actually like this huge thing where even if you signed up for a new account just to get this album, you had to sign up before June 26th in order to get this album that released after the fact. Otherwise, you would not be able to get it without signing up for Sprint or something like that. So I don't know why somebody would want to make their album release so limited, because, I mean, has he heard of Pirate Bay? I'll still buy certain releases in my own formats. I'm a big vinyl collector, but I haven't bought a CD in years. You know, you can just listen to it on YouTube, or if you drive or anything like that, there are certain sites that will get you this music for free. So I don't know why you would want to purposely drive people towards that, because for me, if a CD is $12, that's, you know, like, if I want the CD, I'll buy it. I don't really care about pirating or anything like that. But if I have to sign up for some service for X amount of time, or sign up for Sprint for X amount of time, I'm totally not going to go for that album. I'll either go on a pirating site, or I'll just go without. Like, I'm not a huge Jay-Z listener anyway, so it's whatever. But I started seeing on Twitter a ton of people were like, hey, who's got a link to the Jay-Z album, and you could just see how brazen people were about, I'm not going to support this type of release, I'm going to go pirate it. And actually, very recently in the news, there's talks that this exclusivity wasn't even permanent. So apparently, on July 7th, it might actually be on Apple iTunes and other platforms for download or purchase, which, you know, first off is a little misleading when they're like, oh, you need to do this or you need to do that in order to get this album, otherwise you'll never get to listen to it. So you're putting the fear of God into your fans, your listeners, and then you're going back and saying, oh, this is only for 2 weeks. Gotcha. You know, it's like you're pulling the wool over these people's eyes and everything like that, and it's just a super bad look, and I think that this album will be more pirated than any other album in recent years. So going back more towards gaming, Nadeshot has recently announced that he's going to be looking for content creators to form a team under 100 Thieves. So 100 Thieves is Nadeshot's esports team, and it sounds like he's just going to be expanding it to cover content creators as well. So it's not the first time we've seen stuff like this. Optic is currently probably one of the most popular because they have Pomage, who's just a monster in the Call of Duty world, but other teams have definitely been going more towards the content creation direction, so it really makes sense that Nadeshot would do this because Nadeshot's been retired from competing for a couple of years, and he's made a much bigger name for himself doing YouTube than he was when he was competing, arguably. So anyway, all the information isn't out yet on basically how to apply or anything, so if you kind of stay tuned to his Twitter, you'll be able to see how you might be able to apply and possibly be a part of this team. So lastly, for you content creators out there, Canon has announced 2 new camera bodies for their EOS lineup, the 6D Mark II and the SL2. And these cameras might just be the camera for you for your YouTube videos. Now, the 6D Mark II is the more expensive of the two at $2,000 for the body alone, and it's been getting a lot of flack from professionals or photographers because this camera doesn't include 4K. The 5D Mark IV includes 4K 30, but that thing's like $3,500. So a lot of people were hoping that this $2,000 camera would include it so they could have a nice full-frame camera that can do 4K, since, you know, basically any Sony camera nowadays can do that in their mirrorless offerings. But what I like about the 6D Mark II is it has an improvement over its autofocus for photos, which I use a 6D Mark I right now, and for events, I could definitely take advantage of this upgrade in the autofocus. It also has an improved autofocus for videos. It's got what's called dual pixel AF, which is like the best autofocus for video out there right now for DSLRs or those really high quality cameras and not dedicated camcorders. It's also got Bluetooth, which I find really interesting because right now in my workflow, it's a mess because the Canon app, it only works with Wi-Fi, and so I need to connect my phone to my camera as a Wi-Fi source, which is finicky at best. And then once I get the photos onto my phone, I have to then turn off my Wi-Fi just so I can access the internet even on my cellular antenna, which is just a pain in the ass. So the fact that I can now do this via Bluetooth so I don't have to keep, you know, reinitiating that handshake, which is always so hard to actually get to go successfully, is going to be a big help for me. So I'm actually going to be picking up the 6D Mark II. I know it sucks that it doesn't have 4K, but I actually did a poll on my Twitter this past week asking, like, hey, if you had 4K 30 and 1080p 60 FPS and a camera, what would you set it to? And most people said 1080p 60, which is interesting because right now I have sort of like the step back from that question because on this camera I shoot in 1080p 30 because I don't find 720 is a high enough resolution to work with. I can see like the non-sharpness in it basically once I'm editing it. So even though I like the 60 FPS that my current camera can do at 720, 720 just isn't enough for me. So moving on to the Canon SL2, this might be a lot more popular for more content creators out there because it's more affordable. Now the Canon SL2 body is $550, and then the kit lens bundle is $700. So I actually also have the Canon SL1 camera, and if you notice, I got this nice little pancake lens on here, which is just a prime, so I can't zoom in or out, but this thing is seriously small. So you could put this thing on a Joby tripod, and you could easily carry this and do your vlogs with it if you're running around at an event. And in the Canon SL2, you have that articulating screen, which reminds me the 6D also has that, which, or the 6D Mark II also is going to have that, which I think is a huge feature. But anyway, I'm ranting here. So the new SL2 is going to have the flippy turny screen. It's also going to have the dual pixel AF, so if you're doing videos, so you're doing vlogging, this camera, this new camera, will be able to do that, and it will also do 1080p 60 FPS. So I think that a lot of people are going to want this camera because it's so small, it's so lightweight, and it's so capable. Like, you can take good photos with it. The autofocus is going to be great, and it's going to be just a really nice camera for both photo and video. Like I said, I really enjoyed the SL1. I enjoy my 6D Mark I, so I'll be selling those probably as soon as I get the newer versions of them. But I'd like to know what you guys think. If you are a content creator, do these cameras appeal to you? Do you just use a webcam for your videos? Do you use maybe a full, camcorder instead of a DSLR? Let me know in the comments below. Am I an idiot for wasting my money on these things? I don't know. I do a lot of photo professionally, as well as, this YouTube stuff, which is just a hobby, so that's why I kind of go for those cameras. But anyway, that'll cover just about everything this week that I found interesting in the news. I hope you guys enjoyed my little take on these different stories, and I hope you guys enjoy this new series. And like I said, I really appreciate your feedback. Because this series is so new, I haven't refined the format yet, so I am definitely looking for your suggestions on what I can do to make this better. Should this be shorter? Should this be longer? Would you like more opinion pieces? Would you like more stories in a given video? Or would you like me to just focus on one given story in each video to make them like 60-second videos or 90-second videos versus one giant video? Please let me know. It really helps me out. But once again, my name is Steggy. I want to thank all you guys for watching, and until my next video, I will catch you guys later.